Welcome back to Ahead of the Curve Business Talks, brought to you by Digicel Business. My name is Jaron Lewis, and I'm delighted to be your host. Ahead of the Curve is a show for ambitious business professionals who want to keep up to date with what's happening in the business world, get more out of their businesses, and stay ahead of their competition. I'm going to be coming to you right here every month as we explore what it takes to build a successful company that is, you guessed it, always ahead of the curve. Now this month, we are bringing to you a topic that every business can relate to, particularly given the last 18 months, and that's disaster recovery. Although we in the Caribbean have been ahead of the curve in our preparation for natural disasters, COVID-19 demonstrated how vulnerable our businesses are to an unexpected crisis. And on top of that, we have also had to deal with political upheaval, volcanoes, and hurricanes. It's been quite a year. So it's not surprising that recent studies have shown that businesses today are already preparing for the next crisis, whatever that may be, by covering all bases. Remote work is front and center of most disaster recovery strategies, but I want to find out what else businesses should be doing to ensure they become even more resilient so they can protect their bottom line no matter the circumstances. You know, just because you can't predict the future doesn't mean we can't plan for it, right? But before I introduce you to one of the region's experts in disaster recovery, I want to start by sharing some incredible statistics with you. Did you know that a break in business continuity can cost businesses $10,000 per hour minimum? Or that 100,000 small businesses were forced to close permanently in the US during COVID-19? And even more worrying, that a 2020 survey found 51% of companies across the globe don't have a business continuity plan. It's just incredible when you think about how businesses have been forced to make fundamental, disruptive, and rapid changes to their operations, working practices, and customer engagement. But don't worry, because today we're going to be talking to Nikima Royer-Baptiste, chairperson of the Digicel Group Business Continuity Management Team, CEO of Digicel Dominica, and natural disaster survivor extraordinaire, on how to become a more resilient business and protect your bottom line. Hi Nikima, it's great to have you here.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. So Nikima, look, I know a little bit about you from before. I must confess, I've been doing some research, and I can see it coming through that you have a serious passion for the area of disaster recovery. I would love to know where that comes from. Where does it originate?
Um, it comes from disaster and it comes from trauma. And there's a running joke within our team that we've utilized our PTSD to do good and to support others. But personally, I've had a number of traumatic instances in my life that's allowed me to build personal resilience. And then from a professional standpoint, in 2017, Dominica, as well as a number of Digicel markets, were impacted by two Cat 5 hurricanes. And coming from that devastation, there was just an amazing opportunity for us to not just build back better, but also ensure that we work towards mitigating the risk moving forward.
Excellent. And in your role as the chairperson of the Digicel Group Business Continuity Management Team, can you tell me a little bit about what that involves?
Support. That I think is the key of what I do, is to support others so that they can do what they do best. And what we do at the Business Continuity Management Team across the group level is support the markets in building their resilience, in being as prepared as possible for any potential threats, in responding in the event they are impacted, and in recovering dependent on the type of impact they would have sustained. But what I do and what the team does best is to support and to guide and to assist where necessary.
Right. And I mean, look, it has been an insane 2 years in this region, I would say. I think we could both agree on that. And obviously, not just yours, but many businesses would have found that they were being tested day in, day out. Do you think that businesses are doing enough? Because I've seen so many of them, you know, crumble in the last 2 years.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough as businesses. We're not doing enough as individuals. Business continuity and being prepared for a potential impact or a potential threat. It's not a one-time thing. It's not something that you can do today and then forget about it for the next week, month, year, whatever the case may be. It has to be continuous. And I really think that there's so much more we can do. We need to develop and instill that culture in our teams and ourselves that this is serious and it's something that we need to take on with a level of urgency and importance in terms of ensuring we're prepared. And that's where it starts, is being able to identify what those potential threats are, and then looking at what do we do to prepare for those, or even in instances mitigate against them, and even in some instances prevent them from even being a threat. But there's so much work that has to be done, and I think the pandemic helped in starting to change that mindset, but there's so much more that has to be done.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned the pandemic and the impact that it has had on us. And of course, a lot of it is negative takeaways. And even in the SMB space, businesses have struggled. But would you say it's almost a sort of bittersweet situation, because now we see businesses start to pay attention to things like disaster recovery? Is it a blessing in disguise for us?
I won't go as far as say a blessing in disguise, right? But I will definitely say that, look, I try and live my life by a really simple motto. In every adversity, there's an opportunity, right? The pandemic has hit us, and those of us who are thriving have seen the opportunity to diversify, to reinforce, to build resilience, to collaborate better, to utilize technology, to do so many different things. And those who haven't survived, unfortunately, have been stuck in where we were 2 years ago and haven't been able to move forward. So again, not going to say blessing in disguise, because a lot of things have happened over the last 2 years, but I definitely think that there have been a number of opportunities, a number of lessons, a number of learnings, a number of experiences, both good and bad, that will support us in positioning ourselves for a different future. And I think that's also where we have to start. And I can give you the example of after Hurricane Maria. Dominica was completely devastated. And throughout that, everybody was talking, oh, I want to get back to normal, and I want to get back to what it was before Maria. And it was kind of like, no, guys, there was no before Maria. It was a before and after. There was Dominica before Maria. There was an impact, devastation. And then there was Dominica after Maria. And we had an opportunity to mold what that would look like. And I think all of us, as individuals, as well as those of us in the private sector, those of us in the public sector, corporate world, small businesses, large businesses, every single one of us has an opportunity to shape what our future looks like coming out of this pandemic.
Absolutely. And in my interaction with business owners here, I still find, even after all of the trauma of the last 2 years, that there are businesses who have not started to take disaster recovery seriously. And I wonder to myself sometimes, is it because they just don't know where to start? What advice do you have for businesses that just don't know where to start?
I think, yes, it's that they don't know where to start. And two is they don't think it'll happen to them, right? So I correlate business continuity to like insurance. Nobody wants insurance until they need it, and by the time they need it, it's too late to get it, right? So I think it's a couple of different things. In terms of where to start, Um, you know, you start with asking yourself and your team a basic questions. Am I ready? Right? And then if I were to ask you, are you ready? Your next question would be, ready for what? And that is the starting point. Are you ready? Are you ready for what? And you take a look at your business, you try and understand what could potentially impact me. Look, like 2 years ago when this started, who would have thought we would be in the middle of a global pandemic that would have spanned 2 years? That definitely wasn't on my radar. My radar was climate change, hurricanes, earthquakes. Even up to this year, we supported St. Vincent with a volcano. Dominica has 9 active volcanoes, more per capita than anywhere else in the world. Volcano wasn't on my radar. Why? Because they've been dormant,
Right.
right? But now St. Vincent has erupted. All of a sudden, it's front and center for me. You know, what's our volcano recovery plan? What's our volcano contingency plan? But the place to start is to ask yourself a very simple question: are you ready? And then allow your teams to be able to work through that of ready for what. And I think that's a really easy starting place to do. It doesn't necessitate anything except a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a lot of businesses through a lot of countries, sorry, throughout the region that aren't as impacted by natural disasters as others. I think in those countries, you see businesses lose sight of their focus on disaster recovery. And you almost get the sense that they feel like disaster recovery and natural disaster recovery are the same. Are they incorrect in thinking so? Are there other things that they should be worrying about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm happy you made that correlation, right? Because I've heard God is a Dominican, God is a Bayesian, God is a Trini, God is a Bermudan. Like, I mean, I'm blessed that God has so many nationalities, but we also have to put things in perspective, right? And to your point, it is not just natural disasters. Yes, the Caribbean is afflicted by a number of different natural occurrences just because of where we're located. And unfortunately, what is going on within the world as it relates to climate change is going to make it even harder for the Caribbean islands to be able to sustain. And I remember when our Prime Minister, after Hurricane Maria, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit went to the UN. And that always gives me shivers when I think about it because he exclaimed that the Caribbean is on the front line of the climate change war. We have had zero to do with it, but now we're the ones being impacted. But setting that aside, some of the other things that we need to think about as a corporate community, in addition to the natural disasters, are things like electrical outages. Yeah? Island-wide electrical outages just because it's a Tuesday. How does that impact your
Yeah.
business? Right? And what are the impacts to that, considering your point of sale system is connected to that, your computer system is connected to that, your technical systems are connected to that. Do you have backups in place to ensure you have continuity of your business in the event that there's an electrical outage? Cybersecurity happens to be another one. As technology continues to evolve, the bad players are also going to continue to evolve. Yeah. There are a pandemic. There's so many different things that there could be medical emergency, there could be sabotage, there could be a public relations crisis that you need to prepare for. So there's so many different things that could impact you outside of natural disasters.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the pandemic again, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but one thing I found very interesting about the response to the pandemic is that a lot of organizations just quickly adapted to what was happening, started remote working, gave their employees access to their networks remotely and that kind of thing. And some of them have even started to transact business online more. So it's enhanced their digital transformation strategy. Do you think things like remote work and transacting business solely online are here to stay?
Now, that's a difficult one to answer, right? Because And I took a finance course this week, and the answer to everything was it depends. And that's the answer I'm going to give you here is that it depends. So I do think that we are going to, as a region, as a global enterprise, continue to digitize. Technology moves at such a rapid pace. Like my son is 13 now. By the time he starts working, he's probably going to be working in an industry that hasn't even been developed yet, because that's how quickly technology is transforming. So we are going to need to continue to adapt and digitize ourselves to get there. But in terms of, is that the only model? No, because there are a number of businesses that, unfortunately, because of the products and services they offer, are not able to transact only online. So the challenge for them will be to, how do they transform their business model? How do they build in contingencies? How do they diversify to be able to get to that point when technology forces them to? And ideally, you want to get there before technology forces you to, or anybody forces you to. But I think it really depends. And again, for businesses who are intent on survival, diversification, digitization, transformation, resilience, business continuity. These are all pillars of what their businesses need to be built on for the future, or else they're going to be legacy businesses. And unfortunately, we know what happens to legacy businesses. They're
Absolutely,
legacy.
absolutely. So, do you think there are any specific lessons coming out of that? Because Digicel, I know, would have made some changes during the pandemic as well. I know you would have been front and center in some of those situations. Are there any specific learnings you think that you can share with our audience coming out of that?
Um, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Don't think it's easy, because it's hard. And I think one of the most important things is the team. Ensure you have the right team in place to support you as you go through reviewing. Are you prepared? What are you preparing for? Because those individuals are the ones that are going to be required to really get into the trenches, pull up their sleeves, and work in some pretty grimy places, you know what I mean, to ensure that your business is surviving. And then also, don't think you have to go at it alone. And I think the pandemic, again, that's what's on everybody's mind, but the pandemic forced us all to pull back from each other in the physical aspect, but it allowed us to be able to connect in different ways with each other. And I think you take those learnings in and pull them forward. Yeah, so the team, I think, is important. Right people in the right places, that connection you have with individuals, don't let that go. And then just power through, even if it's hard. Power through. You will get to the other side. And once you're focused on this kind of stuff, you will get to the other side. It's the guys that are not focusing on this that aren't going to make it through. There's no mistakes, there's only learnings and lessons. And ensure you apply those learnings and lessons when you get a chance to breathe.
That's excellent advice. So obviously technology would have played a large role in keeping us connected while we remote work and all that, right? It plays probably the most critical role of anything in our lives right now. Uh, do you think technology has a role to play in disaster recovery? And if so, what is that role?
Absolutely. Like, one of the basic principle of recovery is ensuring you have a backup. Like, that's technology in a nutshell for you, right? Ensure your systems are backed up. Ensure your systems are able to be accessed by those that are removed from the immediate threat. And Digicel, as a digital operator, I think has a phenomenal model to live by, with managed services, with cloud backup. We actually have a business continuity service that we can offer to you. But technology, just like in everything else that's going on right now, is the core and it's the foundation, and we need to build upon it. And without technology, that remote work wouldn't have worked. The access to your data set from home to your business would not have worked. Having the right protocols in place, having the right protection in place would not have worked. Technology is the foundation. And I have to say, like, I am super, 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 super proud to be a part of the Digicel team and to be leading the way as it relates to digitization and digital transformation. What we have done across our different business lines, from business solutions to mobile to our Digicel Plus fiber to the home, it's phenomenal. In Dominica alone, Digicel was first to market with fiber to the home, digital TV. You know, we've brought on board an amazing customer with the government of Dominica and supporting them with all their infrastructure and technology services needs. And we're going to continue leading the way. Again, technology is pulling us much quicker than we can move, but Digicel is keeping pace.
Excellent. So coming out of that, what do you think are the three biggest things a business can do to make sure that they are more resilient?
That's a hard one, right? And I'm going to come back to you and tell you it depends on the type of business you are, right? But to try and generalize it, one is to understand what the threats are and what the threats could be, right? And you have immediate threats. So for the islands that live or are situated within the hurricane belt, a hurricane is an immediate threat. Hurricane season comes around every 6 months. So that would be one, right? So like, I think it's the first one is know what the potential threats are and know what the actual threats are, right? And that's a baseline. Two is identify the team that needs to work together to be able to protect your business, respond to a threat, or recover from a threat. And everybody, you know, sometimes person gets, they get a little taken aback. Digicel is such a massive company. You know, you have so many people, you have so many resources. Listen, even if you're a single owner, a sole proprietor, you have a team. It's your mom, it's your dad, it's your brother, it's your sister, it's your cousin, it's your supplier, it's your delivery guy. Build that team, right? And then number three is don't stop. Don't stop. Start and don't stop. Think about this. I'm not telling you to be obsessed about it, you know, lose sleep about it because your business could be at risk and you don't know it. But don't stop. Don't stop asking yourself the tough questions. Don't stop putting things in place. Don't stop looking for answers. You know, don't stop trying. Don't stop learning. Again, this is about longevity. It's not a start today and end tomorrow. And the final thing I'd say, I know you asked for three, I'm going to give you four, right? There's no such thing as perfection here. Yeah, there's no such thing as right and wrong here. Anything you choose to do today to protect your business is better than what you didn't do yesterday. Yeah. So those are my four
Awesome
tips.
advice. But on that topic, yeah, I get that there may not be any wrong answers here, but we make mistakes sometimes, and we have to accept that. Do you see businesses still making mistakes in spite of what has happened, or making decisions that they need to address quickly before the next thing happens? And if so, what are they?
So a couple mistakes I've seen is lack of communication, lack of transparent communication, both to internal teams as well as to external stakeholders, right? In a crisis, we get scared. What do we say? Who do we say it to? How do we say it? How is it going to be interpreted, and so on? And I think that's a good area to take a look at, is what is going to be your communication protocol in terms of crises? Who can speak on your behalf? What is the cadence for communicating out, the governance for communicating with your teams, right? So I think that the kind of the breakdown in communication, I'm not sure we've gotten that right quite as yet, but that should be determined. And incidentally, that's something that should be determined in business as usual anyways, right? You shouldn't have to wait for a crisis to kind of figure that one out. So that would be one of them. And then I think another area that I see individuals getting it wrong is being scared to, like we spoke about, diversify, being scared to tap into technology that maybe they don't understand, being scared to rely on that technology to be able to see them through. And again, you know, technology is a wonderful thing that it could be scaled up or scaled down to suit the needs of individuals. But I think that is kind of holding us back. We don't understand, and we're shy to ask somebody who understands, or we're afraid to ask somebody who understands. So like I think those are the kind of the two things that are kind of here. We're stuck in our ways and we don't want to
Yeah,
change.
absolutely. Nikima, I think you've given a load of great advice here. It's always great talking to somebody like yourself who has, experience overcoming these hurdles and has such a passion for helping others to do it as well. So thank you for that. I know we could spend all day talking about disaster recovery, right? But unfortunately, we're almost out of time. But before we go, I really just want to say a heartfelt thank you. It was an honor to have you here imparting your wisdom, and I know that our listeners would have gained a whole lot from listening to you speak about these things. Thank you, Nikima.
Thank you so very much for having me. Thank you so much for, again, uplifting business continuity onto a platform. And hopefully, we've laid the seed of inception in a couple individuals and a couple businesses so that they can ensure they prepare themselves more effectively moving into the
Absolutely.
future.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye. And thanks again to you, our listeners. We hope you've enjoyed this month's episode of Ahead of the Curve Business Talks. And I'll see you back here next month for our next information packed installment. Thanks again for tuning in to today's show. See you soon as we continue Ahead of the Curve Business Talks.